Hi, thanks for that introduction. I'm Joshna Maharaj, a chef and activist, and I'm really excited about this conversation. This is a wild moment in time for so many reasons, but I want to talk about our food system because that's the thing that I'm most interested in. When we think about better living and better systems, as difficult as this has been, I really do think we have an amazing opportunity in front of us to really think about how to get it right. And so first, let's back up and think about maybe what's not so right, right? What didn't work? And from my perspective, one of the things that I have really, it's been tremendous to witness has been the vulnerabilities of the industrial food system and just the vulnerabilities of our existing food system. When we all went into lockdown and we made dramatic shifts in our buying patterns and our eating patterns, the ripple impact of that had somewhat disastrous impacts. And they're not all necessary, right? A lot of it was because we hadn't actually built the system really well. It wasn't strong. We didn't have the resilience is really not embedded in this, and it's really time for us to rethink things. Examples that I'm talking about here are, I mean, because it's food, right? And we all have a vested interest in this. And there are so many crazy manifestations. So just to collect some of my thinking about this, some of the things I've witnessed have been spikes in food insecurity as people's jobs got compromised and money, disappeared from family budgets. Food insecurity was a thing. However, we need to roll out to think about the fact that food insecurity in general compromises people's immunity, and that makes them more susceptible to things like a virus. Right? People who work a low wage, who work insecure jobs, often have to put themselves in much more danger to go to work. They have to take public transit. They have to, work in enclosed spaces. They live in apartments with a lot of other people. Things have really Our experience of this has really shifted based on so many things like our capacity and our wages and our own security. From a broader perspective, our national distribution networks are too few, right? And there are numerous monopolies, and the evidence of empty shelves on empty grocery store shelves. Part of it is our sort of wild hoarding, but another part of it is the fact that the distribution couldn't necessarily catch up. And what is that all about? And if all 37 million of us are reliant on maybe two or three lines of distribution, that is a problem, right? That is not a resilient, strong system. And finally, one of the really important things that we've seen is that the industrial food processing is an unsafe work environment. The fact that we had folks in meat packing and meat processing facilities getting sick because of unsafe working conditions, not because they were eating infected food or consuming or the virus somehow that way. It was because their working conditions put them at risk because of proximity. And these are things that are so much beyond the plate, right? These are things we don't always think about. But it really made me think about the wisdom I got from the Toronto Food Policy Council so many years ago, which was that essentially getting the food right will automatically get everything else right. Good food policy automatically means good health policy, good environment policy, good jobs policy, right? If we have good food, we pay people fairly, then farmers are going to get a good price. They're taking better care of the land. People are consuming more healthy, wholesome food. Health outcomes start to shift. Labor practice starts to shift. When we have a food system that's embedded with some values, our sense of trade, and that kind of connections outside of our community will all shift and change. And really, this is a lovely thought to me. It's very inspiring, but it's super important to remember that it's not new, right? All of our cities, from like we're talking Rome, Athens cities, were all built based primarily on food access and moving food in and out of a city very well. And it's crazy to see that once our priorities shifted and we paid less attention to food as a priority and more attention to things like making money or playing golf or whatever it is we're doing, that has really reworked itself. And so I really think we have a cool opportunity and like a responsibility, I'd say, to this moment to recognize what's not working, because this is not the last time we're all going to have to go through this, right? Really think about what it means to rebuild. And in my opinion, in order to rebuild our food system for better outcomes for all of us, we first need to lift our priority about food, right? We need to care more about it. We need to give it a higher position. We need to invest more of our time, energy, and resources into it. And once we do that, we will be able to switch our values and reassert them, right? And then with that lens of a sort of confident new assertion of the values, saying it's really important to us that we all have access to really good wholesome food. It's really important that people have good working environments to produce our food. All of these things will shift once we get more consciousness about our values. And that to me is super exciting, right? I found a document. I was just looking to think. The word agri-food really floats around a lot, and I've been sort of dealing, wrestling with that, trying to understand it, because agri-food seems to be the only way we have a conversation about food in this country at the federal level. And basically, agri-food is food production via agriculture. It's about just growing our food. But when we see, I found a report called Canada's Agri-Food Movement, right? And it's this big glorious image of a crop duster, right? It's sort of terrifying to see. But it's a report from the Minister of Finance. And this is really the only federal publication that we have that talks about our domestic food production. And the thing that's most alarming to me is that there's no mention at all in it about food security or prioritizing Canadian food chains. And this to me is a great example of the fact that really different values, right? There are no food security values behind the way we understand a conversation about our food at the federal level, which to me just feels crazy. These are things that really, really need to change. And what would our agriculture, agri-food policy look like if we in fact embedded values into the strategy, right? If we had values that said that everybody in this city has fair and good, easy access to wholesome food, how would the way we use restaurants change? How would the way will we have a plan to repurpose kitchens when things like a pandemic hit and we all have to go into lockdown? There are so many opportunities, and I think that the disconnection from food that is resulting in a lot of pain and poverty and suffering for people is quite needless, right? We can be smarter about this, and I think this is the moment for us to really pay attention and act and be brave enough, right, to make some new decisions.